Okay, sorry. I don't know why I keep disconnecting like that. Earlier this morning it's like that also. Okay, so can everyone hear me? Okay, so let's get back. So again, in our example here, we have our table. So the table, of course, has the uh, table header. Okay, so the table header easily distinguished. They are the ones with the thicker and bigger fonts. Okay, so in this case, it is the colors and the food. And then table cells, they are the boxes containing the contents. Okay, and of course, the table data is the one inside. So in this case, the numbers of cells inside this table is 6. Okay, so if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so that is how we are uh, describing or looking at the parts of the table. So next, we have our creating tables. So basically, we already know the parts of the table. So what are the contents? So what are the elements that should be present within our table? Okay, so from there, we already know how we are going to create our table. So to create a table in HTML, you need to use the table tags. Okay, so it's this one. So the table tags, within these tags are the TR or table row, TD or table data, and TH or table header. Okay, so these are the contents or the tags that we are going to use in creating our table. So the table row, meaning it will create its row. So it will appear like something like this. Okay, so sometimes you will not see that there is a box already there. Okay, but the TR or the TR tag is creating already a section for that. The table data is the tags that you're going to use for the contents that you're going to put. And then the TH is for the headings. Okay, so one example. Okay, so but first we have the structure of our table. Structure of our table. The main tag of the table is outside. Okay, so it is in here. Okay, so they are the table tag is the one enclosing everything. Meaning, if we put a table tag, everything inside will be inside a section of a table. Okay, and as you can see, we have our table row tags or TR tags. So what would it look like is for every one of this, there is one row to our table. Okay, so every time that this is made, one whole table row is being generated. And then inside, as you can see, at the very first table row, it is using the TH tag for its contents. So why? Because, of course, the very top part of our table, that is the most commonly placed, the common place for our table headers. So, okay, hello, hello. Is everyone there? Okay, there. So going back to our presentation. Okay, I'm sorry for that. Okay, so again, the structure of our code. So again, we have our main tag, which is the table here. So the table will encode everything. And then we have our tr tag. Okay, so because we have three tr tags, three set of tr tags, so with each one, the table will generate one row for each one. And then again, in the very first tr, you can see that the one inside is th. Okay, so th is for the table header, right? So because it is in the very first tr tag, so we are using th or table headings for our contents inside. Okay, so one of these will be one content in the row. So whatever is written here, it will be written in here. Then, as you can see, we have two. So we have one, and then another one. Here, we have two. Okay, so for each one, it will be transferred into our row. So in this case, it is 2, 1, 2. Okay, so the row will be divided into 2 and the contents will be there. Okay, and then for this one, again, same concept, but in this case, it is TD. So TD is what again? Yes, Clausa.
Table data.
Okay, so the TD is the table data. So if the top part or the first part is the table heading, so the contents will be table data. And it will have a different font style than the one on top. So again, each one of this is a content in our row. There. Okay, so that is basically the structure of our code. So we have our main tag outside, and then we have the tr, and then the th. Okay, so we can consider this as like for example, our DL tag. So if you can remember our DL tag, so the DL tag is outside. And then inside, we have the DT tag. And then in between the DT tag, we have the DD tags. Okay, same concept as those. Ah, yes, tala.
Teacher, what if you put the TD tag in the same row as the TH tag?
Okay, so we'll get on that later. So first, let's look at the example here first. Okay, so the example table is on the left side and its code is on the left side or the right side rather. So in here, we have the table, the main tag of the table. Okay, and then inside, it will generate its table rows. So we have 1, 2, then 3 table rows. Okay, so for each one is a row, meaning there's one whole of this one, then another of this one, then another row for this one. Okay, so that is how the TR works. And then, looking at our table headers, so table headers using TH. Okay, so it says colors and food. Automatically, the color is the first one, the first item. Okay, it will be the first one in the row. So the color, the table head color will be placed at the very first part of the row. And then the food being the second one. Okay, let's use a different one for that. Now wait, not this one. Okay, so the food being the second one is going to be placed at the second part. Okay, so looking at the other list, okay, so another TR, another row. So it will appear right below the table headers. So table headers. So the very first part is the colors. So in the following table rows, the first part will also be a same category as the colors. So that's why the first item in the TR here is red. Okay, and then it will fall in here. And then the second item is spaghetti. So second item, spaghetti, second item or second table head, food. So it will go here. Then same goes for the last table row. Okay, so that is how it is being allocated from the code to the table. Okay, so let's try that one. Go to our editor. Okay, so first, let's make our table tag. Then we add our table row. Then inside our table headings. Then, okay, since the first row already used the TH or the table heading, so other rows should just be table data. Okay, so because we already have them at the top. Okay, so if we run this, wait, no contents yet. So let's say for example, clothes, then shoes. Then so if the first item in the table row is clothes, so the first item in the second one should fall under the same category as clothes. So let's say first, this is a hoodie. Then second one, shoes. So let's say this is a Jordan. So once we run this, there. So the clothes, the first part or the first ones in the list or in the table rows. Okay, so they are the first one. So they are going to be in the same category. Then we have our shoes. They are the second one. So this one is the first. This one is the second item. Okay, so they will be at the second one. Okay, so that is how we are forming our table. Okay, so as for what Tala is asking, so what if we put the table data, right? Table data into the table headers. Okay, Okay, just to be clear, uh, the table headers, again, from what we discussed earlier, can be placed on either on the row or the column or both. Okay, so you can put the table header in a column as well. So in this case, we're just following the table headers being placed in a row. Okay, but we can do it easily in a column. Like for example, we are creating a table for clothes, a section for the clothes in the table. So first part is the table header. Then we can make this as the table data. Then change this into, say, hoodie, jacket. Jacket, then make another one. Uh, T-shirt. Okay, so once we run this, there. So we are following already the with the table header being at the column. Let's change this first. This one being the shoes. Change this into table headings. Then let's add another one. Put Duralite. There. So once we run this, there. So the table headings are already transferred in the columns, not by rows. Okay, so that is another way of implementing our table. Okay, so not just by rows. So does that answer your question? So with the terms of using the TH and the TD, okay, so as long as the contents of the TH is the main item or the one with the category, that is the one that will have to be a TH. And then as for the content, as long as it is a content, you're going to use the TD. Okay, so is that clear? Okay, and another one. So as you can see, our table in default does not have any segregation or any boxes. Okay, so that is the default setting for our table. So it doesn't contain any box. Then for us to have a box, we will have to apply our formatting attribute border. So border 1. So let's apply border 1 first. Once we run this, there. So a border is applied to our table. Yes, Awali.
Choose the border infinite because I'm also trying it and as if it's infinite.
Again.
Is the border infinite because instead of putting one, I tried putting 100.
Because the border, the value inside it is the thickness. That is the thickness of our border lines. So if we increase this into 3, then we run this there. So the border becomes thicker. So the border does not provide the size of the table. Okay, it is indicated by the TR and the either the TD or the TH, which make up the whole table. Okay. So any other questions? None? Okay. So let's go back to our discussion. Okay. So that is how we are following the basic structure for structure of codes for our table. Okay, so the table has 3 sections. Okay, so of course we have the table head, the table body, and the table foot. So same concept goes to other things. Like for example, the HTML itself. So HTML has, of course, has these parts. So as you can see, when you are creating the HTML code, so it has its head. If you're going to put something on top, you're going to put it inside the head tag. If you're going to have contents, you will have to put it inside the body tag. And if you have contents that you will need to put inside at the bottom of the page, okay, you will need to put it at the footer tag. Okay, then as of for the table, okay, so we have our T head or table head. So the T head tag is used to define the head of a table, and it groups header contents in an HTML table. Okay, so the purpose of this one, it is to group up the table headers. Okay, so it is defining that group as the T head. Then as for the T body, okay, so same thing goes. The T body tag is used to define the body of a table, and it groups body contents in an HTML table. Then also for the T foot or the table foot. So the table foot tag is used to define the foot of a table, and it groups footer contents in an HTML table. Okay, so the correct order for this one is T head, T body, and T foot. Okay, so it does not go with T body first and then T head and then T foot. Okay, so your body will be messed up like that. So of course, we're going to follow T head first, then T body, then T foot. So how do we apply this one? So let's look, for example, at this table. So this table has a caption of inventory. So meaning all of the contents will be connected to inventory stuff. Then we have our table head. Then we can already recognize what are the parts. So these are the table body, and this is the footer. Okay, so how does it look like in the code? So there's a lot of components here already. So looking at the code, so we go to the row of the headers. Row of the headers, so it is the item code, item name, quantity, and amount. And then outside of that, we have our T head. Okay, so that is the purpose of the T head. It is categorizing the items inside the list, the table content. So same goes for the body. So the body are the ones with the TD tag. There. So it goes up until here. And then of course, our last row will be considered as the T foot. There. Okay, so teacher, what does it do exactly with our table? So graphically, nothing. So there's nothing different that you will see when it comes to the output of the table. But the purpose of this, if we section these parts by T head, by T body, okay, so later on, there can be formatting attributes that can be applied to these groups of the table, which can be applied only specifically for the T head, specifically for the T body, and specifically for the T foot. Okay, so how about we try out our code? Okay, but first, you can see here, there is an empty TD. Okay, so this is possible, of course, in our table. Okay, so in the table, as long as there is a TD, a TH, okay, even if there is no item or data inside those tags, okay, so the table or the TR will still provide a space for that because it is recognized still as a container in which there can be a value in there. Because looking at our example, okay, so that part is this one. Okay, so it is possible not to put any value inside your table. How about we try, okay, I'd like to call someone to make a simple table. May I call Desakula? Okay, let me stop share first. Okay, so what you'll make is simple table first with the two table headers and then two table data. I think you're missing something there. Something that to put them into rows, which is the TR. Okay, there. Okay, so once you run, there you have your table. So try putting in some border. So inside the table, it's going to be border equals 1. There. Okay, so as you can see already, he has his table headers and his table data. So try putting another data in the second row. Anything. Then running it. Okay, so as you can see, in the column of the in the row of the table headers, so you can see, even though the border is made still, okay, so there is no box for the another content there. So why? Because we didn't put any other TD or TH. Okay, so because what I've said earlier, the TD or the TH will provide the spaces that is going to be inside. So try putting another th on the top part, and then don't put anything inside the th. There. So once you run it, there. So another box was created alongside the other table headers. Okay, so thank you. Okay, you may stop sharing. Okay, so any questions from there? None? Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so now we are in our table attributes. So for the table attributes, we have here the first, what we discussed, what we encountered earlier already, we have our border. So for the border, the description for this one specifies the thickness of the table corners. Okay, values are 1 or 0. Okay, because earlier, right, someone asked, is the border, she tried putting the value of the border into 100, right? Is it correct? Then there was no changes on the table. So because the border does not define the size of the table, but with the table row that is being made, or the th or the td for the columns. Okay, so because the value inside indicates the size or the thickness of the borders. Okay, so next here we have the span. So for the span, used to define the number of columns covered by a property. So what does it mean? So it means that, for example, one item, like the word span. So the span has a span of 2. Okay, so it can consume 2 columns or 2 rows, and then it will be merged as one. Yes, Tala?
Teacher, so it's like the merge. So basically, two cells that will be merged together.
Yes. Okay, so that is the similar function for that one. Okay, so next we have the col span or the column span. So used to combine 2 or more data cells in adjacent columns on the same row. So the same row, column span. So what it will consume is the columns that are adjacent in the same row. So if this is a column, so this is part of a whole column. This is another column. So if we add a col span, it will consume another column outside adjacent to the same row. Okay, so in short, it will consume the next box beside. Okay, so that is how we are using the col span. And then for the row span, it will consume a row. So used to combine 2 or more data cells in the same column. So in the same column, this is the same column. And then this is another cell in a different row. So if we try to row span from this this certain cell, so it will get the adjacent cell that is on another row on the same column. So it will merge this one into here. Okay, so now there are the same cell. The next one, we have the width. So the width specifies the width of the table. So disregarding the size of the text, so the width is the table attribute that we're going to use to make a specific size for our table. So even if there is a big or a lot of words that are going to be used inside our table, so the table will still remain the same size. Okay, then next one, the height specifies the height of the table. So same goes with the width. So anything can be put inside, and then the height of the table will not change. Next we have is the cell spacing. Specifies the amount of space between space. Okay, so that means the space between the lines. So in here, so it will indicate how far the spaces between the next line of words are. So it is this part here. Okay, and next we have the cell padding. Cell padding specifies the amount of space between cells content and border. Okay, so we have here our cell content. So cell padding will adjust the width, the space between the border and the cell content. So it is the one here, the space between here. Okay, so that is what cell padding means. Okay, so if cell spacing is the space between the line of words, okay, cell padding is the space between the border and the content words, or any type of content in this case. Next we have is BG color. BGG pare. Okay, next, it is used to assign the color of the background table. Okay, so in here, the BG color is blue, okay, then gray, and then lighter gray. So that is what the BG color is doing. So it is changing the background color of the specific table. And then we have the border color. So the border color change the color of the table's border. So it says so in the name itself. Okay, so if we're going to look at this one, okay, so this one is an example of our col span and row span. Okay, as you can see, there is a cell consuming 2 rows, and then there is a cell consuming 2 columns. Okay, so remember that it is the June and the August. Okay, so if we look at the code, is this one. So that by June, it is consuming 2 rows. So it is going to use row span 2. So 2 meaning it will consume 2 amounts of cells. Okay, so going back. Okay, there again, the June, it is consuming 2 rows. That's why it is going to use row span. And then for the August, it is consuming 2 columns. So we are using col span. So basically the row span and the col span, we are using them for our either TD or the TH. Okay, so that is where we can use our col span or row span. Okay, so I think we are already time there. So that's all for today. Everyone, goodbye.
See you and thank you, teacher.
See you and thank you, teacher.